Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, Cfml News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome to Modernize or Die, Cfml News Edition. It's November 9th, 2021, and we're up to episode 125. I'm Gavin Pickin with Auto Solutions, and Eric Peterson is joining me today.
Hey, Gavin.
Sorry about all those tweets, guys. It said Luis was coming. We fooled you. He fooled us, too, because he's stuck in a meeting. So sorry about that. That Eric is a worthy replacement for sure. So actually, one of the topics is even I was like mentioning you, so I'm glad you're here to talk about that. So
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here, too.
Cool. So first up, we want to thank our sponsors. We got Auto Solutions and our Patreon. So why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah, Auto Solutions, your favorite box products makers. You can like and give thanks back to them by liking and subscribing these videos on YouTube. Subscribe to this podcast in your podcast app of choice. Signing up for an account on CFcast, which releases new content every week. And we are still hawking the 102 Cold Box Quick Tips and Tricks book over on Gumroad.
Yeah, every week that Brad's on, I try and bug him about his command box quick tips, but so far he's got one, and he's busy, he said. So maybe I'll just start like adding them in there myself and just put his picture on there. But anyway. But yeah, so we got a lot of good ways you can say thanks back, and a lot of those ways are just free, and that's a cool thing. They all help us and at Auto Solutions, and we want to bring you things like this. But another way you can do it is support us through Patreon. So Patreon allows you to spend your hard-earned money and basically donate to the cause. And if you go to patreon.com/autosolutions, you can see all the different packages we have now offering the annual memberships. And just a side note, last week when we said Gary and I made a big donation, that was because he paid for a year. And so when I got the email, I got all excited, thinking it was a big monthly payment. It's an annual payment, which is still great. We really appreciate it. But yeah, we were overly excited because we thought it was a huge plan. It's still a great plan. So, but yeah, thank you again, Gary Knight. And if you guys do the annual membership, you can save 10% as well. So it's definitely a worthy way to do that. So right now we have 37 Patreons providing about 93% of the funding for this podcast. So we're almost fully supported just by you guys at Patreon. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's get into some news and events.
Yeah, we had some couple news items from the Box Camp this week from Ortus. A new, or rather an updated module and updated ForgeBox. So the first one, CB Mail Services 2.0 has been released. This is an old staple of a module, and we're going to cover it more, I think, in our module of the week. So stay tuned for that, but we'll have the blog post and the ForgeBox link for you here in the show notes.
Yep. But yeah, basically Luis got on some the Fluent Kool-Aid and updated it to make it even more fluent and super cool than it was before. So yeah, we'll tell you a little bit more about that soon. And the other big thing, as you mentioned, ForgeBox 6 has landed. So they've been working hard on this for several months, and the really big win here is the business account. So the ability for organizations to have a simple and human way of managing their packages and their teams. So previously we allowed you to do collaborations and that type of thing, but this is really from a business first standpoint. So your organization actually owns the package, not a person who's sharing it. And there's a whole lot of other revamps too. But
I know we at Ortus are really excited ourselves for that feature, because our packages have all been owned either by like an Ortus user and we're all sharing keys, which is never the best thing, or I own it, but everybody has access to collaboration. And so we're really excited to consolidate that in a proper org. And we think there's a lot of people who will be excited for that as well.
Yep, for sure. That's one of the big things that we've been missing when you compare to other platforms like NPM and those other platforms like that. So we're happy to have it, and you can check more information on aws.io/plans to find out more about it, and obviously there's a blog post on the Audis site. So we'll be sharing that link here in the chat as well for those watching. Okay, so tonight we have something so very timely. The Mid-Michigan CFUG meeting is going to have Nick Kwiatkowski, I think, from Michigan State University, and he's going to be talking about using AI and machine learning along with Cold Fusion to build smarter call centers. So you can create voice and text-based bots to deploy to your contact center and your help desk. Sounds pretty good. I wonder if they're any better than the ones that we usually interface with, or if they're similar AI backing. Kind of curious about that.
Yeah, and I'm very curious what he's going to use
Mm-hmm.
on the AI and on the chat bots. Like I've used things like Twilio before, but I know there's a lot of options out there, so
Yeah.
should be good. Tonight,
Yep.
7 p.m. Eastern.
Yep, and the link is there. And if you're in the Facebook Cold Fusion group, they actually post those there same day, and they'll post the recordings there as well. So if you're not on the Facebook group, if you're using Facebook, that's a good place to be. So check that out.
Then tomorrow we have, or yes, it is tomorrow. Sorry, the one-day workshop with Damien Brundox. This is the Adobe's Cold Fusion one-day workshop over in our European time zones. So Central European time. You can still sign up on Adobe's website right now.
Yep.
And yeah, that is 9 to 5 Central European time tomorrow.
So that might actually be tonight for us, huh?
I can't do that time zone in my head. I think it's more like 4 a.m. for me, but I don't know. 3? Don't know.
Yeah. Anyways. Just a side note, apparently Brad says we should stop calling if statements in our code AI. But I guess we'll have to watch the CFUG to see what that's actually about. Is it real AI or just a bunch of if statements?
I think the difference between if statements and AI is a for loop, right?
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Sorry, we always got hecklers in the chat, but that's what makes it fun, right? So also coming up this month, we have the Audis webinar for November. It's going to be on November 19th, and it's going to be Javi Quintero talking about ForgeBox business plans. So if you want to learn more about the new business organizations and team options for ForgeBox, that's probably the best way to do it. So Javi's the lead developer of ForgeBox along with Luis Mahano, and they've been doing lots of work, like we said, on the UI, and the big thing is the organization. So the link is available for registration, so you can go register and they'll give you a reminder. But November 19th, 11 a.m. Central, yeah, come check that out. It's going to be, the best way to learn about it. So
finally, for this section, we have some news with our online CF meetup. The first is this Thursday. There is a meetup with Brian Reilly avoiding server-side request forgery vulnerabilities in Cfml. That will be this Thursday, November 11th at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, so this looks good. I know that all the request forgeries, server-side and client-side, they're always kind of a pain. So this would be a good one for that. And apparently Brian knows what he's talking about. He said so in his own tweet, so he must be on it. So.
And then in case you missed it, we have the recording from the last online CF meetup, which was migrating apps to Cold Fusion 2021 from earlier versions with Charlie Earhart. So we will put the link to the recording. And as a reminder, you can view all of their past meetups on their YouTube channel.
Yep. Literally hundreds of videos available from online CF Meetup over the years. So good to see a lot more sessions coming out there. And I was emailing Charlie about getting another one from me up there too. So hold me to it. Make me accountable. My life has got a little less hectic, so I'm going to try and fit another one in. Okay. So that is our news for the week. So let's check out our updates on CFcast. So CFcast this week just released a new series, youth trainings, and basically I can't even pronounce the name of it because it's one of the Spanish universities that we've teamed up with. And so the first session, I believe, is on version control. because I can't read it. Control de versiones. My Spanish is terrible. We don't have Spanish anywhere near where. So they only just started getting tacos in New Zealand in the last couple of years. So like, we're trying to make a Mexican meal in New Zealand. It was not easy. Tell that much. So, but yeah, they've got more of that content coming this week. Also, you should see the this month's Soapbox video podcast with Luis interviewing another person about basically Coldbox's 15-year anniversary and everything else going on with the CFML community. And we even have a new series on ForgeBox coming very, very soon. Javi's going to be leading that since he's the lead developer. So we've got lots of great content coming your way from CS Cast. And obviously all the old content is still there. So, and Quick has finally finished, Eric. Your Quick series, a long series, but a great series.
It took a few months. I'm excited to hear from all the people who worked through it.
Yep, I got the last 2 videos I think to watch, and then I'm done with that one. But I really enjoyed that one. Working with it as much as I have been lately, it was still good to see a few things that I didn't know, or it was easier. So, very cool. So yeah, lots of great content up on cfcast.com. Remember, a lot of it is actually free. There is a paid subscription you can get to unlock everything, but you can get a lot of it for free. And then if it's just one package or one series you want to watch, a lot of them you can just purchase just one off. So try to be flexible and give you all the good content you need. Okay, let's talk about conferences.
Yeah, so first up we have the Deploy conference by DigitalOcean. That is November 16th and 17th. And knowing it's by DigitalOcean, that means it's going to be on absolutely everything. So you're going to find something that you'd like. They have such a huge breadth of things that they cover just in their knowledge base. So looks like it's a lot about, Docker, Kubernetes, different deploy structures like that. So I believe this is free online.
Yep.
And you can go register now on their website, deploy.digitalocean.com.
Yep, very cool. And in case you're a .NET developer and you stumbled onto this podcast by mistake, they're doing a .NET conference this week as well. I think it's today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So if you got here by mistake, you can go watch that at .NET Conf. But didn't
also,
think
if you are a .NET developer and you are here on this podcast, please comment on this video, and I want to talk to you because I just need to know how you got here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, next up we have the AWS Reinvent Conference. So that's the premier AWS conference, and it's going to be November 29th through December 3rd. And this one is live in person as well as virtual as well. So if you come online, it's free. If you don't, it's about $1,800. I think that's actually a discounted price over the previous years because I thought it was ridiculously priced. But that just really proves how cheap and affordable Cold Fusion conferences are. Like Adobe seriously subsidizes CF Summit every year. So maybe we'll appreciate them a little more. So, but yeah, so AWS reInvent has a lot of people, a lot of sessions, and it's 10 years of it now. I wonder if Brian Klass will be in person this year or watching online. But he's usually there. He gives me some updates, and obviously he has a lot of great AWS content that he brings to us and shares with us with the Cold Fusion community. But we have a lot of great stuff there, and yeah, they have certification and training, and really can dive in pretty deep on a lot of the services, and they literally have 300 services for AWS, so there's got to be something you want to watch. So
next up, we have the Postgres Build Conference. That is online and free November 30th and December 1st. So if you do any work with Postgres or you're interested in doing work with Postgres, check out that conference. I was just taking a look at some of their sessions and a lot about performance, query optimization, some Postgres specific things like casting. So looks like some good stuff there. I assume you're going to be there, Gavin, having done so much Postgres work lately.
Yeah, I think so. And I need to pay more attention to what's already in the other engines too, because you get so used to using what you know is there and not keeping up on all the new stuff. So a lot of things I've used in Postgres, I figured out, hey, that's available in MySQL too. or an MS SQL as well. So, but one thing about Postgres, it's really strict on the SQL standard. So a lot of times, if it's in the standard, they have it, which is kind of nice. But yeah, a lot of the other engines do vary a little bit. But yeah, I really like it, and it's got a lot of great extensions for doing almost anything and everything. So I know some of us in the chat. Scott's here. He talked about it at Into the Box. There's a few others that are big Postgres fans. So very cool. So next up, we have a little Latino flavor. We have Into the Box Latam, and now the full schedule is posted, I believe.
I believe so. So this is December 2nd and 3rd. It will be in Spanish and Portuguese. You can register now. That's about all we can tell you. This is one of the reasons we needed Luis here.
Yep.
Besides writing all this stuff, he can also translate it if he needed to.
Yep. So it looks like they got some content box. They've got some, Vue.js. Ooh, code box in Portuguese. So Patrick Lee.
So this is a free event. Will be held online. So that's December 2nd and 3rd, and you can sign up at latam.intothebox.org.
Yep. It's a lot of speakers. So you'll meet some of the new speakers from down in Latam's office of Audis, and there's also some community members as well. So I know Patrick came last year. I think he's from AWS, I believe, if I remember right. So, okay.
And then less than a week after that, we have Adobe Cold Fusion Summit 2021.
Yeah, and it looks like they've released their final agenda as well. So I'm going to scroll through that for those watching. So I know they've let their speaker list up for a while now, and it looks like they've set it up in 2 tracks. So track 1 is basically very much Cold Fusion based, so I know Brad will like that. And then track 2, this one is sort of the more related topic. So we've got some Gatsby if you want to do server-side rendering and you don't want to use Cold Fusion to do it. Gatsby's in there. There is some machine learning as well, so Brad will definitely want to avoid that one too. The blockchain one is actually in there, and there's also a couple on I think fusion reactors and that other track. So just don't ignore the second track for sure, at all. There is a lot of great content in that one too, but they seem to have had like track 1 is all CF and track 2 is sort of a mixture, from what I could tell. So, but yeah, there's some good stuff in there, and yeah, it's nice to see a good mix. And there's a lot of familiar names. Very own George Murphy will be there talking about AWS Cloud with Adobe Cold Fusion 2021. And there's some really good stuff there. So David Tattersall, Charlie, Ray Camden, so and Alicia's gonna be talking about Adobe APIs. So there's a lot of great content in that conference, and again, it's free, so super subsidized this year. Go check that out.
We have a couple more conferences to go over. JConf is a free Java conference that will be on December 9th. You can sign up for at 2021.jconf.dev.
So sorry, I was going to say, every time I see this and I see Deep Dish Java, they were holding it in Chicago, it makes me want pizza. But yeah.
And then the final one we wanted to highlight was a Vjs Nation Conference, which will be in the new year, January 26th and 27th. The call for speakers is currently open for that, which is why we wanted to highlight it now.
Yep, exactly. So it's free to sign up as well. Just put in your email, ask you your name, and then you're signed up. This is another one by viewschool.io, which is a great place to go. And if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about Vue, I believe they have some really good free courses, and they have some paid subscriptions as well. But yeah, this is an online live event, and a lot of the regular big speakers that you probably recognize, and maybe a few you don't. But yeah, a lot of them are, again, either related to Vue School or not. But it's definitely a cool little conference. And yeah, I think the Vue for Speakers is open. Sorry, not Vue. The call for speakers is open until December 31st. So you guys got 6 weeks to decide if you want to post something here, and so you can go fill out the Google form and submit something, and yeah, maybe we'll get placed in that conference. That'd be a pretty cool honor. Get some Cold Fusion related stuff in there as well. So cool. And as usual, if you want more conferences, there's not enough. Comps.tech has a million conferences there. And if you're hosting a conference, make sure you put on that list as well. So comps.tech, and go find a conference in person, online, and yeah, even those .NET people that are watching can find some .NET stuff. Okay. Blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So Ben Adele's been busy, as usual. And the first one, basically he was talking about console out being so easy in Lucy, and what was he going to do in Cold Fusion. Because for those of you not paying attention, Ben's in the process of migrating his blog over to Adobe Cold Fusion 2021. And so that's probably the fodder for a lot of these blog posts this week.
That's right. So he was bemoaning that Lucy has a system output function, which can send either to the standard out or standard error stream. And what is he going to do for Adobe? Well, it turns out that write dump can take an output attribute, and one of those values is console, and it will send it to the standard out. Works in Lucy as well. They format the strings a little differently between the two, but yeah, you might be reaching for that, especially when you can't, abort and dump it to the browser. Maybe you're running in a background thread. So it's a good, handy tool to have.
Yeah, as you mentioned, especially when you're doing Docker containerized, it's nice to have the output stream, just for, even if you're just doing log aggregation, it's nice. But yeah, it's definitely good. So, okay.
Next one that Ben has, I think we have like 3 in a row here, is talking about Cold Fusion component setters and accessors are chainable.
I never thought about looking for this.
So that means as you call, if you add accessors equals true on the component, the set methods return an instance of your component. Right. So basically return this at the bottom of the generated method. So you can call set property 1, set property B, set property C, and that will work for you.
Yep. So short and to the point, but yeah, just something really handy. The whole fluent chainable stuff is pretty popular these days. I guess jQuery kind of made it more popular, but we're finally catching up in the Cold Fusion world. And the next one from Ben is he's wondering if is error decision function in Cold Fusion worth adding. So there's a lot of functions built into Cold Fusion. You can do like is struct, etc. And so this one is error. He thought might be a good thing because he's been working through the Rollbar SDK, and I guess he realized that certain different types of errors are not the same. And so when you throw them, they're always a little different. And so he was like, I wonder if we could do an is error built-in function and be able to figure out if it's actually an error or not.
Yeah, this always makes me wish for the days of, not the days, but the ability to do like custom exception types in Cold Fusion. Like right now, if you want to throw an error and include any data with that error, you're basically serializing it inside like extended info. It's just kind of a tricky situation there. For instance, with CB validation, if you get a validation exception and you look in extended info, it has the whole like JSON representation of the errors because there's nowhere else for us to stick it. I would love for there to be a way to catch like that exception and know that you have different fields or methods available on it, like in Java. So if any of our Lucy or Cold Fusion developer friends are listening, put that in the next version, please.
Yep. I mean, one of the things that he really complained about was when you were trying to check, certain things, you check to see if it's Boolean, string, or struct, array, throw, expression, missing, include, SQL, error-ish, and throwable, and they just do different things in Lucy and Adobe. But I guess most of them the engines probably don't care what the other one does, but it's just small differences like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. If you're having to reinvent the wheel and do it over and over and do some hard work, maybe that's something the engine can help with. So
Yeah, we have to do something similar. I know we've have like the Sentry SDK, and when we're sending information up to Sentry, there's just a billion checks of does it have this field? Does it have this field inside that struct? What does this look like? Let's get all the data where it needs to go.
yeah,
So yeah. And then I
yeah,
see the is instance ofs in his code, and all I can think of is anytime I've used is instance of in Cold Fusion, it has very much become a performance issue.
yeah, for sure.
Every time. So I don't think it's just my use cases. I think there's something there that needs to be either addressed or I'll keep avoiding it.
Yeah, and so Brad was saying, I think he wants to, use is instance of, since Java exceptions are typed by class. He says he's got a ticket in both engines to allow complex data and extended info, but requiring a string is dumb. And then, because basically error types aren't a class in Cold Fusion, they're just a string. And so you can catch groups of exceptions by using dots in the name, like my.error.type. Yeah, and so the Sentry checks it to guess if the logbox extra info is an exception versus a normal struct. And so, yeah, there's lots of pieces in there. And then David was asking about, basically extend and create custom extensions. And yeah, there's lots of different things we can do. But again, I think it's just a consistency thing, especially for those who are trying to create a cross-platform. You always get those extra headaches, right?
Yeah, that is our life.
Yep. Okay. Well, next up we have that blog post as we mentioned for what's new in ForgeBox 6. So there's some pretty pictures here.
That's right. That's what I was just going to point out. You can see all the features in picture form here, getting ready for Javi's webinar coming up. So
Yep.
again, we're really excited for all of the organization features, having packages owned by the organization, activity logs, and especially API key management. You can have multiple keys now. Put one on your local command box instance and put one on your CI server. And that way you can just rotate the one that you need.
Yep.
That has bit me before when I rotated my own personal key and all of a sudden all my CI builds failed.
Whoops.
So
yeah,
some great stuff there. Go ahead. You can check it out right now too, just by going to forgebox.io.
Yep. Remember, not everything is for orgs. There's a lot of stuff just they added to the normal ForgeBox, so a lot of revamped UI, etc. So next up, we have a blog post from Adam Cameron and talking about the overhead of OOP in Cfml. And so this is basically a question that cropped up on the Cfml Slack channel, and he said he answered it pretty long-windedly in the Slack channel, but he basically said, well, I should probably post it as a blog too. And he asked the original questioner, and they said they're okay. So this blog post is essentially that, the original question and the original answer, formatted for HTML, but not for, didn't really change the answer. And so I thought this was useful for you, because you've been looking at some of this for Quick to make Quick even quicker, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of quicks in that sentence.
Yep.
So the question was what is the overhead? How broken down is too broken down? To kind of summarize, I think Adam's answer, and something I agree with, which is as low as you need to go and no lower, right? Like the original examples, like I have a car component. Do I need a wheel, an engine, a car body? And the answer is only if you need to. Like if you don't need to represent those and put behavior and data, then don't. As for the overhead, yeah, so Quick right now, the entities, it takes about 10 milliseconds to get you one, which sounds really fast, and it is fast, until you try to get 100 or 1,000 at once, and then that's less fast. And so that's what I've been running into and trying to see really what's the fastest we can expect Cold Fusion to create an object. In my local testing, it's been about a millisecond is kind of rounding. Obviously, I don't think I'm getting like nanoseconds, or is it nanonex or is it pico? I don't know. Whatever's under milliseconds, I'm not getting that level of detail. But that can make a difference, 1 millisecond, 10. If you're creating 1,000 objects, that's a second. So like there is an overhead. It's not free. It is relatively cheap, and our code usually isn't creating thousands of some object. But when it is, that's a place to go look through and think maybe I can just get by with just buckets of data, structs and arrays, which do not have that same overhead. So,
Yep. And Adam's actually in the chat here. Welcome, Adam. But he's like, no, that doesn't sound fast. And yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the overhead just on some of the the calls or whatever, it's similar. But if you're getting 2 or 3, not a big deal. But yeah, like I say, when you're doing API calls and you're pulling back 100 records, and those 100 records have 50 related records each, and yeah, you get up to some craziness pretty quick. But I mean, we can't do too much more than Cold Fusion allows us to, but I like some of the stuff Eric's been playing with in his little proof of concept to get it down even faster. So,
yeah. And with that, I think you wanted me to touch on that. Basically, it comes down to what we talked about. Don't create things you don't need.
mm-hmm.
There's some places in Quick, as I've been diving into this, that we're kind of creating everything you might need for when you use it. For instance, the Quick entities are also used as your query builders. And in the current version of Quick, it creates a query builder for you whenever you ask for an entity. But when you're getting 100 back from a query, you're not going to be calling a query on each of those. So it's just 100 useless objects that were just created. That those are the kind of things that we're trimming out, making things just in time or lazily evaluated, however you want to look at that. So those are the kind of things you can do. And again, if you don't need the extra abstraction, like, don't put it in there.
Yep.
Right? You'll know when you need it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about Quick. I mean, I have these crazy queries with all this logic and relationships and everything, and then at the end, instead of calling a get or a paginate on it, I just say as get retrieve query, and then do a dot get or a dot paginate, and it just bypasses the objects completely, and it's crazy fast because Quick builds all the queries with Query Builder. It builds it all without actually generating the objects. It's only if you say, hey, give me a list of objects back, does it actually do it. So all the other awesomeness that Quick gives you is already there. You just say, hey, I want it as a query instead, and it goes, okay. And then no object creation. It's, well, probably a query builder object, but not everything else. It's way
you already
faster.
have the query builder object at that point.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So yeah, that's, I hear that, and I'm glad it exists, and it exists for that reason. It is the goal, and that I'm working on right now, to get basically the object creation in Quick to be as fast as Cold Fusion will let it. I do have some tests that's showing it's at that 1 millisecond mark. Which, again, if you're creating thousands of objects, that's not going to cut it for you. So use a different tactic. But as far as I can tell, I can't do better than that within the constraints the engines have given me. So, but that's being worked on right now, and hopefully we'll have like an alpha or a beta out soon to get all that good performance.
Yep, exactly. And even David said that that's his favorite part of Quick. Everything's a query until you tell it not to be. And yeah, it's very cool. I actually hit one of my sessions I'm going to be doing with Charlie coming up is going to sort of show you some of what happens if you don't use Quick quite the way you think you are. And so some of it's like using Mementifier. If you don't set it up right, Mementifier will do more queries than you want it to, and stuff like that. So I learned the interesting way with CB Debugger. It made me see everything that was actually happening. So I wanted to have a look at that and go into more depth for those who want to see it. And Adam just said in the chat, he's like, his comment was not a slide on your code, Eric. It was a slide on Cfml. And I'm kind of curious, Adam, because I know you did some PHP stuff too. Like, what's the object creation like in PHP or any other languages you compared it to? So if you get a chance to pipe in the chat, then let us know. Because obviously we know that with thousands of objects this is slow, but wonder what other languages can create thousands of objects in. So I don't know, Eric, do you know?
I don't off the top of my head, but it would be fun to see. I'd be curious, just like in Java, what's the Java object take like instantiation wise?
Yeah, I'm
Because
curious how
if that
much the
one's like,
Cfml overhead is.
if that's a nanosecond and we're taking a millisecond, what's Cold Fusion doing?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I don't know the answer to that. So,
Yeah, and Adam said micro or nanoseconds is what it should be. So
yeah, micro. There's the one. Okay, I knew there was something in between there.
yeah, so yeah, curious. I guess we can challenge the devs from Adobe and Lucy to try and up their game to get closer to Java. I know it's an
But it's
abstraction.
also, I
But
think it's also important to know that that's a question in every programming language at some level. Like ours might be like a higher, lower ceiling. I don't know the right term there, but I've seen it in so many languages. Like, oh, don't create this many objects. Oh, this is an overhead here, and so every language deals with it. Unfortunately, it's just I think a consequence of having all these highly abstracted languages is that we don't have to think about it for a long time, but at some point and at some performance level, you start to.
yeah, for sure. Okay, well, interesting. Yeah, it was a good blog post, and again, go check that out on Adam's blog. And yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what anybody else can give us for some other feedback on other languages and their creation types. So that'd be kind of cool to see a graph or something. But David says he likes. He thinks CFML has more oddities than most languages. I think Adam agrees. But Adam, you'd be bored without it. That's why you keep coming back.
It's the oddities that we know and love, right?
Yeah, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, or something like that. Okay, so one more we got from Ben, and this might have just been out of order, but um, this has Ben talking about rollbars, Java SDK 1.7 working Adobe 2021, and so he was setting that up here, and
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, this was a adventure in Java Loader.
mm-hmm.
Just trying to get all the roll bar jars loaded. I think he had to use a special version of like the log4j. It just kind of went to the point of Adobe, please add a third param to create object to let's pass jars. It would make all this so much easier. So
Yeah, and I think he even said he had to load some other jar that wasn't even being used just so it wouldn't break. Was that the log4j
that was
stuff?
the log4j one, if I remember right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Maybe I'm misremembering.
yeah, but it was crazy. So, but yeah, you can check that out again if you're. This will be a good one if you deal with creating all Java objects like this yourselves to get around some of these errors. So, or use Lucy and make our OSGI bundles so that you can use the exact version you want.
Yep, OSGI definitely makes it better. Of course, Brad's like, isn't there a rollbar SDK already? I know Otis used to use it. Yep, there is. But I don't know what the restraints are and if it would have been updated for 2021 or not. That's always a good question. So, but yeah, we used to use rollbar a lot, and now we're using Sentry a whole lot more. So, I'm not sure. But yeah.
So I'm jumping back a little bit because I was curious on the object creation in Java.
Uh-huh.
This is some of these tests on a 13-inch Retina MacBook Pro in 2015. So it's like an Intel Core i5, 16 gigs RAM, and 4 gigs given to the Java heap. It took anywhere between 3 and 127 nanoseconds to create like an object or an object that held a collection. So nano is underneath micro, I believe, in the list. So there's a big, again, I want to re-clarify. I say 1 millisecond because that's the fastest that I'm getting from like the get tick count.
Mm-hmm.
If I dig down to Java, I might find that it is in the microseconds level and it's just rounding. But nanoseconds, I feel, would round to zero. So
You would hope,
so
right?
there's something interesting there.
Yeah.
So
I guess you got some homework, Eric. Jump down and get us some Java tick counts and see what we can get, because I'm kind of curious.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see next podcast.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, that wraps up our blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So, next up, let's talk about Find a Job. So, only one new job listed this week on Get CFML Jobs. Oh, apparently Lucy has the ability to get nanoseconds, just so you know. Interesting. But the jobs we have listed is one in Australia, so Gold Coast, Queensland. And that was put out last Wednesday. So looking for a Cold Fusion developer with a solid understanding of HTML, CSS, and JS, and experience writing with SQL. So if you want to find out more information, this was originally posted on Indeed, but if you go to getcfmljobs.com, you can check this one out. And if you look back, we've had, almost 230 jobs this year. So not a bad little count there. And this does read from several of the major job boards, and you can post them free on the site. So getcfmljobs.com, and if you subscribe to Twitter, you'll see all the new ones pop up. There was actually a new one that popped up and already disappeared because I think it was filled this week as well. So just showing you the ones that are still available. Ooh, get tick count nano. Oh, I'm curious. I wonder.
I will go shove that in my tests and report back.
You better. Okay, so next up, we have our ForgeBox module of the week. And so, as we mentioned earlier, it is ColdBox Mail Services 2.0. So
if you're wondering why you would use this as opposed to just the CBMail tag, CBMail Services is a wrapper around both the CBMail tag as well as any other protocol or way you'd like to send mail, whether that is sending it with an API to like Postmark or SendGrid, even writing it to a file on disk, saving it to an array, or just throwing it away. Because depending on the environment you're in, development, testing, staging, you want to do something different for it.
Exactly.
And so that is the big sell behind using CBMail services. It can use your CBMail tag under the hood, but it lets you switch that between the environments. I find it great. This new in-memory one for testing lets you, everything gets collected in an array, and then at the end of your test, you can say, hey, mail services, you should have an email to this person with this subject. So you don't actually send anything. You're not the HBO intern, but you get your tests running. So.
Yeah.
The big thing in this one is there used to be like you create a mail object and you needed to send it back to the service to actually send the mail. Now you can just do it all in line in a Fluent chain, and we do that for you.
Yep, the dot send, and then you can do dot on success and on dot error as well, or dot on error. Sorry. But the other cool thing is before you'd have to actually inject the ColdBox renderer and then give it a template, and then it would render that template, and then you would get that, and then you'd shove that in the body. And so now you have a set body, and it just takes the template directly, or you can include it there. So it gives you a couple extra options there, which I was always like, why do I have to keep injecting this renderer? Shouldn't it just do it? Now it does.
Yeah, so I believe you're specifically talking about the set view.
Yeah.
If I remember right, a mail can now take a view. All the arguments that you had passed to the event.setView can be set there as well. So yeah, that is incredibly nice.
Yep, and like do the set read receipts. You don't have to worry about the weird header yourself, and add attachment. Just expand the path of what you want to send really fluently. Those looking at home can see it on the. I'm looking at the blog post here, but there is an upgrade. Sorry.
A couple of new features is now you can specify multiple mailers inside of your settings and be able to switch between them in your code. So before CBMail services, you could, based on your environment, choose one of the protocols, but now you can set all those protocols up, maybe change the default between environments, but still have a way to send mail to multiple places. For instance, if you have one service for a newsletter and one service for your transactional email, something like that.
That's a perfect example, because the mail service, they usually want you to treat them differently, so now it makes it easy to do that. So,
and then I think the final neat features are hooking into the ColdBox async engine with a send async method So that will return to you a cold box future. You can either wait for it to complete, or what is more likely, you'll probably just want to let that keep going and maybe catch an error and log it if there is a problem. But that way, your user doesn't have to wait the few seconds it takes for you to spool up that mail and send it. They'll just get a response right away.
Yep, for sure. So a lot of awesome stuff there in CB Mail Services 2.0. There is an upgrade guide for some compatibility changes, so do check that out. But it is a major update, so it won't automatically update if you want it. You have to make sure that you, ask for the 2.0 version. Otherwise, you'll just get the 1.0 version you've liked all along, because there is a couple of changes that you will need to consider. So.
Additionally, if you do upgrade to the 2.0 version and you are using any protocols on ForgeBox that aren't included with it, make sure they've been updated as well. I know I maintain the SendGrid protocol, and it's just a minor change, but I haven't done it yet because this was just released. So
Yeah,
don't try to use them together; it will break.
I think I have to update the Mailgun one. I think I have to do that one. I don't know who did Postmark. Anyway, there's a the
Postmark
joys
is included with CB Mail services, so that one's
okay.
already up to date.
Oh, that's right, because that's what we use for order stuff, I guess. So cool. So yeah, if you want to go check it out, CB Mail Services on ForgeBox, or check out the blog link I just posted in the chat. Okay, so next up we have our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week, and this is so hot that I think it actually just got acquired. So this week we're going to be talking about CodeStream. And CodeStream is a developer collaboration platform that I think New Relic just picked up, because I swear when I looked at it last week it didn't have New Relic, and now New Relic is all over it. So I think they just got it. They just acquired it.
Yeah, it's the very top of the extension says CodeStream is now a part of New Relic.
Yep, exactly.
On October 21st.
Oh yeah, so not too long ago. So yeah, so basically the cool thing is it actually allows you to do GitLab, GitHub, and code reviews, pull requests, and then code reviews in your IDE. So instead of having to switch between all these different tools, you can do it straight in there. And it integrates with New Relic 1, Bitbucket, Slack, MS Teams, Jira, Trello, and more. And so it's got a bunch of different hosts that you can connect it to. It also links into things like Jira and your other issue trackers. And then if you have some observability tools like New Relic 1 or Pixie, it works, and it ties into messaging services too. And this is actually a plugin for VS Code or JetBrains or Visual Studio. And as long as you're using Git or Git hosting like GitHub or GitLab, then this can work. So if we scroll down for those watching, you can see you can basically comment directly in your code and add little issues and track issues. It's all kind of built straight in there. It's kind of neat that you can just do it straight in your editor if you don't want to jump off. But yeah, it's kind of neat. You got like a little chat screen, comments, kind of like, working with Google Docs, and there's comments on code and everything. You can bounce up and down and just do it straight in VS Code.
I'm very interested to try the reviews, just because I do go between GitHub and GitLab fairly often, and the fact that it works on both sounds really nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever quite gotten the GitLab extension to work how I want, so maybe this will work better.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. You just tie it into Slack too, so those pop-ups are straight from your IDE into Slack, so people can see it and know how to go check it out. But yeah, I don't know if CodeStream is something that's free right now and they're going to charge, or if it's something that, it's, like I said, it was, when I first looked at it, it had nothing to do with New Relic, I believe, or maybe I just missed it. But it looks like a pretty interesting feature, and maybe not good for everybody, but it sounds like it's got some nice features for, teams that are working on those tool sets. So yeah, CodeStream, and they look like so far some really good reviews too. Okay, so last but not least, we have our Patreon supporters, and again, I just want to rectify my little misstep last week when I said Gary Knight had made a extra large contribution. He did make it, but it was an annual membership, so just want to say thanks again to Gary, but I might have overstepped your your baller status as far as how much money you had to throw around. So, but He's still one of our top contributors, so we thank you. And remember that the Patreon support goes directly into supporting this podcast and other community efforts like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, etc. And they power the cloud infrastructure that we use for ForgeBox and our package management. And there's obviously some perks too. So being a Patreon member, we'll basically talk about you on the show, but also if you are on the Audis community website, you get a free profile badge for being any member of the Patreon packages, as well as your own private forum access. If you got questions, you get your own forum where you get special attention from the Audis team. And then bronze packages also get a ForgeBox Pro account and CFcast subscriptions as a perk for their Patreon subscriptions. So those are some extra benefits for being a Patreon supporter. And again, usually on Patreon, there's a certain level that you're supposed to be before we read your name on the podcast. But until we get higher numbers, we're reading everyone's. We do put them in a certain order, so it's alphabetical after package donation level. So the top ones are usually the higher donations, and then as we go down, it's alphabetical. So just in case everybody was thinking the last person was the least, they might be tied with like 20 other people. So alphabet does play into it, but yeah, it's really cool to have this many people, spending their hard-earned money to help us in this project and our other projects. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I think it's my turn to go through our awesome list.
Go for it.
So thank you to John Wilson with Synaptrix, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Mario Rodriguez, Giancarlo Gomez, David Bellinger, Jonathan Perrette, Jeffrey McGee with Sunstar Media, Dean Maunder, Joseph Lamerie, Don Bellamy, Jan Yannick, Laxma Titrahadi, Carl von Stetten, Dan Card, Jeremy Adams, Jordan Clark, Matthew Clemente, Daniel Garcia, Scott Steinbeck with Agri Tracking Systems, Ben Nadal, Mingo Hagen, Brett DeLine, Kai Koenig, Charlie Earhart, Jonas Erickson, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Sean Oden, Matthew Darby, Ross Phillips, Edgardo Cabezas, Patrick Flynn, Stephanie Monge, Kevin Wright, and Stephen Klotz. Thank you for supporting Order Solutions and this podcast.
Yep, and you can check them out on ordersolutions.com/about-us/sponsors. And again, patreon.com/ordersolutions, you can find out about those packages and what's available if you want to donate to us through Patreon as well. Okay. Well, that's it for another week, guys. So thank you very much. Have a great week. Remember, lots of conferences going on this week, next week, and coming up. So we'll catch you guys all very soon. Have a good one, everybody.
See you later.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.